Hey everyone, Reaper here again with another comic spotlight video. For this video, as you probably already know if you saw the thumbnail or you read the title of it, spotlight on Fantastic Four number 5, the first appearance of Doctor Doom. As you can see, I have a very high-grade copy. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm going to talk about that. It's a spotlight video. We're going to talk about that. So, like with the first video, which was Giant Size X-Men number 1, some of the things that I want to get out in the open about the first appearance of Doctor Doom is it is a good book to have no matter what. But also, like Giant Size X-Men number 1, I think there's some speculation about it. And I think that the speculation is most likely going to come into fruition. But more on that later in the video. Let's talk about Fantastic Four number 5, okay? This is the introduction of Marvel's premier villain, Doctor Doom. Marvel Comics has a bunch of good villains, I think. We have a bunch of good minor villains that pop up every now and then. Some are really cool. Some of us like these villains better than others. We all have our favorites. But Marvel has a good handful of some serious bad guys. Okay? And I would argue, and I don't mean to, cause trouble, I would say that the Marvel villains tend to be, I think, more dangerous than the DC villains. I know someone's going to say, what about Darkseid? Well, Darkseid's definitely a good one. And definitely one that could probably beat Doctor Doom. But I think that Marvel has some more powerful supervillains than some of the supervillains in the DC universe. Yes, they have a lot of great supervillains in the DC universe. But I think Marvel beats them a bit. I don't think Lex Luthor could stand up against Doctor Doom or Magneto. I don't think the Joker could stand up against Thanos or Galactus. Yes, DC has those big type cosmic villains, but again, I will say that I do believe that Marvel edges out a bit. So with that being said, here we have Marvel's premier villain, Doctor Doom. Now, I mentioned in jest I had a high-grade copy. No, it's a very low-grade copy. It's a book that I think a lot of people like. It's a book that, because it's Marvel's premier villain, in my opinion, some may disagree, some may say another villain, and that's fine. This is just my opinion. But because I think, and I think a lot of other people think, that Doctor Doom is Marvel's premier villain, the book is great to have. It really is. He has been a villain that has been part of so many storylines, not just involving the Fantastic Four, but involving other characters, other group teams, and all that stuff in the Marvel Universe since his introduction in July 1962. Okay? So it's a good book to have regardless. Now, I think there's a lot of speculation. Again, this is a video that's being shot at the end of 2020. But regardless of that, it's still a good book to have for all the reasons I just mentioned. But there is some speculation that Doctor Doom is going to definitely be part of one of the new phases of the MCU. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Now, I heard rumor, and you know what rumor, it doesn't really mean that much, honestly. But I thought I heard something a long time ago, or read something, that if the MCU had the rights to Doctor Doom when they first started the MCU in movies, which was in 2008, they've been obviously planning it for longer than that. But if they would have had the rights to Doctor Doom, it's possible that we would have seen Doctor Doom as one of the main villains in the Marvel Universe up to this point, and maybe not Thanos. I don't know if that's true. I think Thanos worked out very well, but I do believe, and I think many others do believe, and I do think there's validity to this, that Doctor Doom is going to play a big role in one of the upcoming phases in the new set of Marvel movies. It makes sense if they started doing a whole bunch of new movies where they culminate into some sort of Avengers Endgame type movie and there's no Doctor Doom. That doesn't make any sense to me unless the movies are just not making money anymore and they don't want to spend a the money making these things anymore, then that makes sense. But I do think that somewhere down the line, Doctor Doom is going to play a heavy role. So not only is the book a good one to have because of Doctor Doom's significance in the Marvel Universe, I think a lot of people want the book because they're thinking that he's going to play a big role in years to come, a long role, have some sort of longevity in these new Marvel movies that are going to be coming out. Now, I know a lot of people say they're going cosmic with the Eternals and all that. Who knows? You might see Galactus down the line, whatever it is. But I honestly do believe that you're going to see Doctor Doom in some form or another in the next phase of these movies that are coming. So I think that's one of the main reasons why a lot of people are paying more attention to Fantastic Four 5. Again, people have always paid attention to it, but I think the attention right now has been increased because of that reason of the movies. Now let's talk a little bit about the pricing of this. Okay, let's spotlight the pricing of it. I'm not going to give you figures right now because figures tend to change, especially when you depending on when you watch the video, but it's still important to talk about it as if it's, if we could talk about it, if you watch this later, as a time capsule of the times in which this came from, when this book was this value, or when this book was that value. So I still think it has some importance, or some, it's interesting to watch after the fact. But I think from my experience, since the end of 2017, well into 2018 and 19, all the way up to the present, Fantastic Four 5 has dramatically increased in price. It was always a pricey book, right? It was always kind of expensive. It was never a $100 book or a $50 book within recent years. Within the last 10 years. It was always pricey, depending on the grade, of course. But it seemed like you could get a 5.0 of Fantastic Four 5 maybe 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, for maybe $2,000. Maybe a little less than $2,000, maybe a little over $2,000. It's pricey, but for a 5.0, by 2020 standards, like I said, I don't know what it's going to be in 2021 or 2022, is great, because I think a 5.0 now is going for well over $5,000, maybe even $6,000. So it more than doubled than what it was normally going for back in 2017, I would imagine. So obviously something's going on with the book, and it's what I believe. The speculation and all that, or people starting to realize that Doctor Doom is one of those villains that doesn't seem to suffer from the villain curse. After a villain shows up in a movie and then the villain's done, like Ultron and like so many others we've seen over the years, the book spikes right before that movie comes out, and then after that movie comes out where the villain is done, he's a one and done character, or done after a couple of movies, the book steadily goes down or sharply goes down. I think Doctor Doom is one of those villains that might be more or less immune to that, because he, again, is the premier Marvel villain. Doesn't matter how much you like Galactus, or how much you like Thanos, or how much you even like Magneto. I still think Doctor Doom edges out over those. He may not be as powerful as some of those other characters, but he still edges out, I think, over them. And for all those reasons, I think that the Fantastic Four 5 maintains its value and even has the potential to continue to go up. Before I go, I had a copy of Fantastic Four 5. I had a restored copy I bought one, I think, in early 2017, which I practically got for nothing. And eventually I sold it. It was one of the books I sold to get my Amazing Fantasy 15, which I think was a better buy. I think, despite what's going on with Amazing Fantasy 15, I never regretted it, and I still don't. But I started saying in the early 2018, wow, Doctor Doom is starting to really catch fire. Should I have done that? Yes, I should have. It was restored. But I'd like to get Doctor Doom again. So I purchased this book from Mike. Those of you that watch my channel, you know the interactions I have with some other YouTubers like Nick, Patrick, and Mike. You'll know who Mike is. I bought this from him at the Heroes Con. And originally, I was going to buy the first appearance of the Vulture, Amazing Spider-Man 2, another book that I wanted, and another book I think is good. But I said to myself, Vulture is cool, but I think Doctor Doom is a little bit better than the Vulture, right? So I decided to get Doctor Doom instead. And even though it's a 2.0, eventually I'd like to upgrade it down the line. But since that time, even the low grades, like the one I have right here, 2.0, have shot up tremendously. They're just like whether it's speculation or something else, the books have really gone up. And I don't think they're rare. I mean, I think there are very few rare Marvel books, right? I think most of them, especially Amazing Fantasy, Incredible Hulk 181, there's tons of them out there, but also the demand for them is real. There's a lot of demand out for them too. And that could definitely be the case with Doctor Doom as well. So that's my spotlight on Fantastic Four 5, why I think there is a spotlight on this book right now, historically, and with why the price seems to be going up, or at least up until this time, end of 2020. But again, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and talk to you soon. Be safe.